Today's review is sponsored by inflatable breast implants. Don't know what size you want your breasts? Change it depending on your mood. You can also double as a flotation device during nautical emergencies.
Watch it, Alan. I'm shooting.
Madhouse. Not to be confused with the 1981 Madhouse. The year 1974 might be one of the most important years for the slasher genre. The 1960s through the early 70s had so many films that were building blocks for the slasher genre. Hitchcock's Psycho, of course, Peeping Tom, the many Giallo movies, and of course Herschel Gordon Lewis movies. But in 1974 we got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas, which many would consider to be the first official slasher flick. However, there was one more movie that came out in 1974 that was another early entry in the slasher genre. That would be Madhouse, starring two legends of the horror genre, Vincent Price and Peter Cushing. This has the essence of meta-horror, a lot like Scream. We follow Vincent Price playing Paul Toombs, a legendary horror actor most famous for his role as Dr. Death. One night his fiancée is brutally murdered, causing Paul to have a nervous breakdown. Flash forward 12 years later, Paul has come out of hiding to play the role of Dr. Death once more for a British television show. But it seems that the character Dr. Death has come to life and is killing members of the cast and crew. And each murder is based on kills from the original series. Paul doesn't know if he's the killer, if someone else is the killer, or if Dr. Death has somehow come to life.
I haven't been near Dr. Death for years. Anything he does frightens me. It brings everything back.
Madhouse is a movie that deserves more credit than it gets. It's understandable it tends to get overshadowed by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's face it, Chainsaw is a juggernaut in the horror genre. And recently, Black Christmas has been getting more recognition for creating the slasher genre before Halloween. But here's the thing, Madhouse has those same elements of slasher flicks, but it came out before both of these movies. All three of them came out in 1974. Black Christmas came out December 20th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out October 11th, and Madhouse came out May 24th. 7 months before Black Christmas, and 5 months before Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love all three of these movies, and I think all three of them deserve credit for the slasher genre. Of course, there was Vincent Price's other movie, Theater of Blood, which came out in 1973, but that's for a different video. Madhouse has all the elements we see in slasher flicks. A high body count, a masked killer that goes around murdering people in different ways, you have chase scenes where the killer is chasing a woman around, and you even have scenes where the killer is chasing Vincent Price around. So in a way, Vincent Price is a final guy. Madhouse is a very slasher-esque movie. Unfortunately, it's not talked about that much. This is a PG horror movie, but this is 1970s PG. The rating system we know today didn't come out until 1968, and for the longest time there was no PG-13 rating. That didn't come out until 1984. The PG rating back then was more like what the PG-13 rating is now, so even though this is a PG horror movie, there's still some good kills, and they have some bite to them. Rated PG. The movie manages to have a creepiness, especially in the scenes with the Spider-Woman. You have this woman, who's not a crazy cat lady, she's a crazy spider lady.
How are my babies? How are my pretty, furry little babies?
Madhouse feels like a transition movie. The 1960s was when the horror genre was transferring from the classic era into the modern era, and that continued in the early 70s. The two standout transition movies from the early 70s are Bay of Blood and Last House on the Left, both from 1972. Then in 1974 we had Madhouse, which feels like the last transition movie into the modern era of horror, which started with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Why do you think that your films have been so very successful?
Well, I think it's because they're not about the ordinary, everyday world around us. They're about a world that's deep inside of us, a world of impulses and instincts that we have been taught to suppress.
There's a giallo feel to Madhouse. The killer looks like a dark figure that you would see in giallo cinema, and there's a lot of shots of gloved hands. The main thing that makes this a transition movie is the casting of Vincent Price and Peter Cushing, two classic horror actors appearing in this slasher-esque movie. It felt like a passing of the torch to the new era of horror, but it did not feel like a goodbye. It felt like, okay kids, we're giving you the reins to the horror genre, but we're not going anywhere. We're sticking around.
Just like the great days, eh?
In our day in Hollywood, the monsters didn't need makeup. They just came as themselves, like quail.
I adore Price and Cushing in this flick. These are my two favorite classic actors. The main reason for that is these two embraced the horror genre. A lot of actors dread being typecast. Not so much Vincent Price and Peter Cushing. They embraced it.
I made you come here to bring you back to life.
But you're not bringing me back to life. You're bringing Dr. Death back to life. And he terrifies me.
They gave their all to every movie they were in. It didn't matter how low budget or exploitative the flick was, they approached each role with class. Vincent Price does such a great job. Of course, he's Vincent Price. You believe that he's descending into madness. He doesn't know if he's the killer or not. And because of that, it creates this unreliable narrator aspect.
Because when I opened my eyes, I saw his glove. You know that glove, Faye. My glove. Dr. Death is real.
My favorite scene isn't actually any of the kill scenes. It's this long monologue that Price gives after he's lost his mind. There's nothing like seeing a great actor being allowed to just act for a long stretch.
There is always room for more in the coffin of time. The instinct is alive within me. And you, Dr. Death, are you afraid?
Peter Cushing is also great in this film, but the story doesn't revolve around him, so he's not given too many moments to shine, but whenever he is on screen, he's great. Because he's Peter Cushing. The man's Grand Moff Tarkin, for Christ's sake.
There, you see, Lord Vader, she can be reasonable. Continue with the operation. You may fire when ready.
What?
Madhouse deserves your attention. I understand why Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas tend to overshadow it, but it deserves to be recognized as an influential film in the slasher genre. Vincent Price and Peter Cushing in a slasher movie. How can you go wrong? And with that, let's get to the Grindhouse rankings. We've got a body count of 8. The kills consist of, but are not limited to, decapitations, stabbings, hangings, and getting crushed. Not bad for a PG horror movie. It reaches the slasher requirements with a high body count, a masked killer, and a good variety of kills. This is a PG horror movie, but it's 1970s PG, so there's still some bite to the kills. We have two classic horror actors in this flick, Vincent Price and Peter Cushing. These two are great in every film they appear in, and naturally, they're great in this. The movie has a feel of classic horror transitioning into the modern era of horror, but it never overshadows classic horror. It's a Grindhouse horror film that knows its roots. Madhouse needs to be recognized as an influential movie in the slasher genre. I'm giving this a 4.6 out of 5. This is such a good movie that needs more love from slasher fans. As always, I want to thank everyone for watching and supporting my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you like what I do here, or give it a thumbs down if you don't like what I do here. Leave a comment down below. What are some of your favorite Vincent Price movies? And let me know some of your favorite Peter Cushing movies while you're at it. This is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die. I will talk about more classic horror movies for a price and a Cushing. Sorry.